Okay, I think I'm going live. Oh, okay, I think I'm live now. Still figuring out the mechanics of Facebook Live. Hi! Okay, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a moment here. It looks like my audio is lagging a bit. But then we'll get started. All right, it is now 9 o'clock Central Time. And hi, my name is Jen Eyring. I am a tribe yoga teacher, and I'm also a military spouse. Our family is currently serving in Fort Sam Houston, Texas, which is in San Antonio, Texas. So holler to anyone that's in San Antonio or has lived here before. We're absolutely loving it. Hello to those that are just coming in. Hi, we're just getting started. So as I said, my name is Jen Eyring. I'm a tribe yoga teacher. And for anyone that comes across this video or page, because I will share it on my own later today, what is Tribe? So just a little introduction for you so you understand what Tribe is. It's a nonprofit organization whose mission is to serve active duty members through the means of yoga, mindfulness practices, and meditation. And the reason that I am so proud to be part of Tribe and one of their teachers is because, not only because we're a military family, and I understand how much is needed in that area of mindfulness, area of yoga, area of just honestly a whole body care when it comes to a military lifestyle. But I also think it's really neat that Tribe is there's a couple more out there, but not very many organizations are out there specifically catering or working to serve the active duty militaries through the means of yoga. There's a lot out there for veterans, which is great because that transition into civilian life is hard. But we also need to think about our service members who are currently serving today, and that's who Tribe is taking care of. So please, if you know anything about nonprofits, if you don't mind just coming to Tribe's page after this video or while you're watching, just take a look over it. See all the amazing work, the videos from all the other teachers, and they're always volunteering their time here, and this is open to military and non-military. You get to use these meditation videos for free. It's such a beautiful offering that these teachers provide here. And then also on top of that, because we're a nonprofit organization at Tribe, we also really rely on word of mouth. So please, if you can, share this page, share the video. We're trying to also get out there that we have a weekend training coming up March 20th and 21st. So if you know any yoga teachers out there, or if you're a military member yourself and you would like to learn more about a more holistic approach to your life while in the military, if you want to see how yoga and the military can actually kind of be married together or married between the two, which seems almost like an oxymoron, but I promise it's not, and we'll go over that today. Check it out. See and look inside our events page. Read a little bit about what our Tribe training is all about these 2 days, March 20th, March 21st, and see if that lands with you. Gonna get a drink of water here. If you have a drink of water, you can drink too. Okay, so after introduction, let's get into mindful resiliency. So just to talk about resiliency first, because this word can mean a lot of different things depending on where you are at, what your career might be, what your experience in life is. But I want to go with first what would you call it, like a imagery that someone once gave me is the term resiliency is when you are able to build armor on top of yourself. And I thought that that was such an interesting imagery because the person that shared it with me talked about their personal resiliency. And for them, their resiliency, they found that in the religion that they were practicing in. They felt like that was a sheath of armor for them. And they felt also that they were an athlete, so their training for being an athlete was part of their resiliency, right? And so they had all these beautiful things to help build them into a person that they felt was strong, that they felt was empowered. And I agree. I think that that was an amazing thing for them in the resiliency. But as I approach, let's say and as I approach resiliency for the next 3 weeks, I want to also go a little bit deeper and talk about that person underneath all the layers of the armor. Yes, we can have all of these layers that help us feel powerful and strong and resilient, especially to the things that we may perceive as a danger, right, in our life, or maybe we perceive as something that maybe feels uncomfortable. But we also, let's say that, we can go down deeper into those just very being that we are and also build and empower ourselves from here. And so that is what I take as a mindful resiliency, is going a little deeper beyond the sheaths of armor that we may use through other means. And those things are great. I don't want to negate those because that's something that we can use. Hi, seeing people come in. So our mindful resiliency is, and I'll just read this. This is something that I wrote last night. And how I take that is it's a 3-part teamwork between the mental, emotional, and physical responses that we use to process in and through any given moment or any given event. So oftentimes we think of resiliency through moments and times of grief, or we think of resiliency through times of trauma or crisis, and that is very much the case, right? Those are the times when we need to pull on those pieces of armor or that internal resiliency and be able to respond through our mental, emotional, and physical health, and also process. And so part of the differentiation, my goodness, I can't say that word. Part of what I fear and why I want to go into the deeper end, hi Jessica, is that there may be a disconnect, and this is for all of us. We all go through these things. There may be a disconnect between the resiliency we're building here through the tools that we have, and then also the resiliency of our personal self. Maybe we use exercise to forget about the way we were treated at work, right? So maybe we're just like using it as a tool to just forget about it rather than actually process that emotion that we may be having because of how we were treated at work. So we'll move over to what we're going to be talking about today. So the military uses what's called Mrt training, and I don't know if this is specific to Army. We're Army, so this is the terminology. So I apologize to military members if you have no idea what that acronym means, and for anyone else, I'll explain it. MRT means Master Resiliency Training. And so the military actually does recognize and see the need to help build their soldiers. That's one of their missions, is to actually have soldiers that are very resilient, right? That they have a balanced life. And part of that, and what's kind of cool, is that there's more of an initiation happening in the military right now. There's even like this little packet that comes out that just came out, I think this past November maybe, or January, where they're trying to allow units and members of the military to see a soldier as a whole, rather than just a soldier and a comrade and maybe a battle buddy. I mean, those are amazing things too, but also beyond that, right? And I think that we can use that in our day-to-day. We're seeing that outside the military, of remembering that we are whole people that have mental responses, emotional responses, and physical responses. And so part of that MRT training that my husband has actually brought into our household is called Hunt the Good Stuff. And it is essentially what it sounds like. You go ahead and you try to find something good that happened that day. And it's not to build up the armor and not take into account how you're feeling during the hard moments. And we'll go more into that in my 3rd week, the last week in March. But today we're going to learn about what this means, hunt the good stuff, and how we can take it a little bit further and create it into a mindful resiliency practice. So hunt the good stuff, I'll just explain what that is, and how we practice at night. So as a family, we gather around and we each take turns saying out loud something that happened that day that was good. And then after that, we say out loud what made that good? Why was it good for us? Or what made it something that I guess was memorable in a good way to us? And then the third thing we say out loud is, how can I apply this more often? Or how can I find ways to bring this good stuff more often into my life? And there's something, I mean, at first it was a bit awkward because it was just new, right? Anytime we do a new practice, it feels a little awkward. It feels a little funny to say things out loud that to share with people because it makes it almost a little vulnerable. But the more that we've done that, what an amazing process that has been for just our family and our kids to see is that oftentimes I think as humans, or maybe just our family, I mean, you could probably correct me here, but oh, I love it, Deborah, always looking for the good stuff, is sometimes I feel that our family focuses on a lot of the negative. There's so much heaviness to life, right? And there always will be so much heaviness to life. But there's also the cool thing about being humans is that we are very multifaceted, meaning that we can actually carry a lot of feelings at once, right? We can carry this heavy stuff while also acknowledging the heavy stuff and also holding the good stuff. And that's something that we've really come to see as a family. And there's something incredible about witnessing that all together. So for today, that's what we are going to do. We're going to take some time. I'll be asking you to practice this with me, and I will be asking you to vocalize this too. Now, if you're in a place where you cannot vocalize or it feels a little silly, feel free to write it down, or you can come back to this later and you can do the process and vocalize it out loud as well. Or even practice this at home with your loved ones, or your friends, or even on Zoom with your family. But let's first just shake our bodies out, because I've been sitting and talking a lot, and I'm going to take those off. But just shake your body out if you need to today. Maybe you have already moved and you don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this because this helps me get into a place where I can be a little bit more thoughtful. I can think a little more. So if you haven't moved today, maybe bring your arms up overhead. You can stretch your arms overhead, or you can wiggle out your wrists. And shake out your elbows, shake out your shoulders. Just kind of moving our body before we go into a mindful or mental and emotional processing. If you want to, maybe gently moving the head side to side, or if your neck is already warmed, you can even just shake the head, maybe nodding yes and no. We can wiggle the hips. Just start to kind of move the body around. You can get your breath up a little bit just by doing this in your seat. And then when you're ready and your wiggles are all out, let's come to sit in a still place. And if you are not ready to sit today, you can also you may lay down as well, but somewhere where the spine can be long. And you can also pay attention. So let's put our hands on our body. So what I am doing is I'm placing one hand on my chest and one hand on my belly. This may feel funny at first, and that's okay. You can acknowledge that, laugh at yourself, especially if you're like headphones in and doing this and people are watching. Just laugh, it's okay. But take a moment to recognize that first thought when you're touching your body. What does that feel like? Notice how your body feels this morning. Maybe that's within the energy. Are you tired? Are you ready for the day? What comes up for you? Notice where your thoughts are this morning. Maybe you're feeling really clear-minded, or maybe very scatterbrained, and that's okay. And also notice how your breathing is. For me, I have a little cold, so it's a little more difficult than normal. How are you breathing today? Where do you feel that? Do you feel it within either hands? Backside body maybe? Maybe in the jaw and face? Just notice how you feel. So we'll come back to this at the end of doing our hunt the good stuff. But let's for a moment now take our hands off our body. Unless you need to keep them there, you can. But we'll go through hunt the good stuff. And again, I'll ask you to vocalize this. So just it might push a little bit of boundaries. And notice that in yourself. If you feel a little anxious, actually verbalizing that, verbalizing, that's okay. That's your own process. And if you just can't do it, again, you can write that down. So step one, or number one of Hunt the Good Stuff, is what happened today for you that was good. Now I know it's morning, excuse me. I was about to sneeze. I know it's morning, so it could be something from yesterday too. But let's try to find something that has happened recently, big or small. What happened to you today that was good? So for me, I'll share mine, I'll vocalize it. I was able to meditate before coming here today. That was something good. So you go ahead and you can share with me. I can't hear you, but I will pretend that I can right now. But I'd love to hear too in the comments if you want to share. And then step two is, what made that good for you? Why was that your good thing today or yesterday? So for me, my meditation, that was a good thing because when I meditate, I feel more clear-minded. I feel more like I'm getting to know myself. And that makes me feel good inside. So for you, you can vocalize that now. And then number three is, how can I apply this more in my life? How can I bring this good thing more into my life? And again, you can vocalize it now, or later if you want to have an actual witness to be accountable to, not so they can parent, but just so you can be witnessed. How can you apply this more in your life? For me, I can actually schedule these meditations, and if I miss it, I can do it later, and that's okay. So part of the process of why I'm asking you to vocalize is I wish I had the book around me, and I can't even find it still. We're still slightly unpacking here. There's a book that, I'll put it in the comments later on once I find this, that talks about how the brain processes through so if we go back to mindful resiliency, through this process of mental, emotional, and physical responses, and how the actual brain needs to use different parts of us, just as we have to like learn in several different ways. Sometimes also processing through an emotional response, processing through a mental response. We have to also be using those almost other tools like we would for learning. And so one way that we can actually continue to process through an emotion, good or bad, right, or what we say is good or bad, can be to use a vocalization. Or maybe it's moving your body through that, right? Thinking of like tactical or kinesthetic learning, vocal learning, or maybe visual. Maybe you do some sort of art or go see something or go outdoors. That can be a way to process it. So I encourage you, as you go through these steps and try them yourself at home, to find new ways to actually process through these good emotions of hunting the good stuff. I love it. Amy said, yesterday my daughter and I learned to make marmalade. It's fun learning new skills together and both being new despite age. I love that. It was really heartwarming to see her proud of what she created, so I hope to find more experiences like this going forward. Thank you, Amy. That is a beautiful thing. Deborah says, I did my Revive workout and it was good because my body was right and the stretching relaxed my mind. I love that, Deborah. Thank you for sharing. So just give yourself time to witness that in yourself too. And so now let's go back to what we did in the first part. So this is, as we said out loud, hunt the good stuff. That was kind of our mental way to think about it, right? Pause and think. And emotional, we had to consider what to us was a good emotion or a good response, right? That we shared, like Amy and Deborah shared here. And so now let's take it to the physicality of ourselves. So just as we did before, bring one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly. And we will just go through those 3 steps again, but this time, just like we did in the beginning, We'll see if our body responds at all. We'll see if anything changes as we talk through these three things. So if you need to kind of like prepare yourself, that's okay. Sometimes it feels I feel a little anxious, but I'm talking to people, so that's why. But take a big breath in, big breath out. If you need to do that one more time, I'm going to do that as well. Again, notice how your body responds to just that breath. So let's go through those three questions. What happened today or yesterday that was good? You can say that out loud or even try internalizing it and thinking it, but let's notice how our body responds. So notice if you vocalized it, did your body tense at all with the words that you said or relaxed? If you internalized it, did you get quiet to listen to the words you were saying? Number two, what made that event or thing good? Why was that good for you? If you want to try the visual learning, you can close your eyes and imagine that event happening. And notice in your body, as you're thinking and in this place, this mindset of thinking of that good thing, how are you feeling right now? How is the body responding right now? Underneath your hands, do you notice anything? Do your shoulders feel hovered in, closed in, or do they feel open? Does the body and mind feel still together or a bit nervous? Just notice. And then number three, if you will placate me. If this doesn't work for you, that's okay. But if you want to, we'll try the visual learning of closing your eyes, if that feels safe. If it does not, keep your eyes open and you can imagine from there. But closing your eyes and thinking to yourself, like actually planning in your head, how can I apply this good thing in my life more often? And take some time to visualize you actually doing that you're already doing this. As you're visualizing this, notice how your body responds. Again, if it's accepting to this visualization in some way, notice how the hips feel and where you're seated. How the jaw responds. How the breath is moving through the body. So together now, let's take 3 long breaths. Big inhale through the nose. Slow sigh out the mouth. A breath like that again. Big inhale through the nose. A sigh out the mouth. Last time, just like this. Big inhale. Big exhale. If you want to, you can give your body just a little squeeze. Maybe you haven't had a hug yet today. Give yourself a hug. And thank you so much for being here, those that are live and those that watch the recording later. I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate you supporting Tribe. Please make sure to follow their page. Notice the donate button at the top. I'm not sure which corner that's at, but up at the top, if you feel so inclined. And then also, please, the biggest thing for nonprofits is to share. So if you could share their page, share what they offer and their why. You can look up our mission here at Tribe. But I'll just leave you with this little poem, because this is going to be kind of the theme for Fridays. as we work on our mindful resiliency. And this is by young Pueblo. I highly suggest this book inward if you are a poetry reader. And this is on page 79 because there's not really, you can't see it, but there's not really titles or anything. Page 79. And young Pueblo says, forcing ourselves to be happy is not genuine or useful, but being honest about what we feel while remaining calm and aware. This is the real work. So I wanted to just leave you with that, and knowing that as we practice hunt the good stuff, this is not us necessarily, it is not us. Goodness, how do I say that? This is not us forcing to be happy, right? We can still have those heavy feelings. We can still be validating the hard things in life while also noticing these good things that are happening too. It's not to invalidate, but to just be aware of. And then we also can notice and be aware of how our body responds to that. This is a mindful processing, right? To be able to recognize that we have a mental, emotional, and physical experience in this life. And that as we notice the responses that each three holds, that will help us better process through these emotions. And so we're not holding on to them, or we're not building some armor on top of them just to forget this, right? But we're actually internally this resilient person. Thank you so much for being here today, and hopefully this resonated a little bit, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.